This episode is brought to you by Whitaker Garage Doors, your one-stop shop for all things garage doors, proudly based in Peekskill, New York. Your home is a direct reflection of your personal style, and let's face it, your garage doors are the first thing people see when they pull up your driveway. Whether you're looking for the timeless charm of a classic carriage house door or the clean, sleek look of a basic wood finish, Whitaker Garage Doors offers traditional options for every taste and budget. I can personally vouch for their incredible service. When I had my own garage doors done, I was blown away by their timeliness, professionalism, and overall respect for their clients. Jonathan, Cassara, and their entire team are top-notch, and they really go the extra mile to ensure you're happy with the final result. So if you're in the market for a new garage door or need some repairs, give them a call or find them on Instagram at Whitaker_doors. Don't forget to tell them you're a friend of Dave's over at the No Snooze podcast. Whitaker Doors. You won't regret it. Now, back to the epi. Adversity? Bring it. The struggle? I welcome it. Snooze on life? Never that. I am Dave Regina, and this is the No Snooze podcast. Come on. Welcome back, No Snooze Podcast, episode 210. As always, I'm in the booth with the best duo in the game. I'm here with my brother, Claudio the Voice, Valenzuela, and I am Dave, the Body, Regina. If you're listening on drop day at 4 or 5 a.m., I just want to give you a salute. Hiya, good morning, let's have an incredible week. And if you snoozed on this episode and you're listening Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll give you a pass because you're still tuned in. We're going to do a Q&A today, which is something that I've been actively saying that we're going to do a little bit more frequently. And I do want to just remind you of this quick concept now that we're in February. There's only 12 months in the year. Chapter 1 of 12 is now over. But it's also an opportunity for you to adjust and tweak some things. It's an opportunity for all of us. It's an opportunity for myself. But as we just recapped back in December, our year in review, or maybe that launched in January, I don't know. Doing it on a monthly basis is far more efficient and effective than doing it at the very end of the year. A couple of housekeeping things I just want to keep you guys up to date with is I just spoke at the Westchester County Conference, and it was a very humbling experience. I spoke on high performance leadership, which was actually for my old department that I used to work in. And this is something, I don't know how many people out there, even in the motivational world, I challenge you, if you've done it, very cool. But I had an audience CV that ranged in age from 19 to 90. Like, I've never heard such a thing. But as most of you guys know my personality, well, if you know my personality, you know I'm a very blunt person. So as I'm looking around, I remember thinking in my head, like, this is amazing. I've never seen anything like this. Like, this dude looks really old and this dude looks really young. So I took an age poll, which is something that was a little dicey. I said, just for myself, I need to know how many people are in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. There was nobody in their 80s. But then there was one guy, shout out to Lou Caldera is his name, just turned 90 years old last week. But it was tough to go into a space like that and try to engage an entire audience. And at first, I'm going to be honest, you know, I guess the way they received me was not the way I anticipated, because I remember like making a joke about like my good beard, and it was like crickets in there. So I was like, all right, the humor is not really going to work. But then I was able to finally get them engaged and into leadership. But it was a very humbling moment for me because, like I said, I used to work in that department, and it was actually at the Westchester County Center, which is a huge venue. 20 years ago, when I was 15 years old, that same building is where I stepped on the basketball court for Slam Dunk Basketball Camp in front of Kathy O'Connor and Kevin Cook, who are actually two of the people that listened to me speak. Kathy is now the commissioner. Kevin Cook has been a great mentor of mine as well. But I gave them credit for all the impact that they've had on my life. And it was something that, I do privately, but it was very cool to do it in a public setting as well. All right, CV, I know you're running around the booth here, but if you can jump into the questions, I want to rock out for like 45 minutes. So however many questions we can get in within that time frame is what I'm looking to do.
Sounds good.
How are you, my brother?
I'm good.
You good?
I'm good.
You good?
How are you?
Just making sure.
Yes, all good. Sorry, I need to pull up this. All right. You ready for question number 1?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The more I dive in, I'm finding that leadership looks very different to different people. What are your core principles of leadership? Do you need a repetition?
No. This is, I'm thinking.
You want to know the origin of the letter, of the word?
No. This is good. I do think leadership is definitely different for people, but it's also, I don't know if I like the word different. I think it's more unique to each individual leader. But for me, my core principles of leadership are respect, transparency, action, and consistency. And I say it in that order because that's the order that I believe to be most effective. Respect is the foundation of all relationships, both intimate, personal, professional. I say transparency next because people don't like to be blindsided. And again, this is whether you're running a team or you're in a relationship or it's a best friend. When you share information with people, people are more likely to take ownership of something, even if it's not their own concept or idea. Action, because we already know, shout out, action cultivates excellence. But I believe that action leads to results, and being decisive and proactive in situations shows a level of confidence to your team, and they're more likely to buy into you. And then the fourth piece would be consistency, because I think consistency gives you credibility. People know when you're going to show up, and I think it's a great thing for your team to have a leader to where they already know how you're going to move and what they're going to expect. And those are 4 principles that I try to apply in all aspects of my life. So again, it'd be respect, transparency, action, and consistency. And I'm one that's thinking in the back of my head of a acronym, but I don't have one for that. How was that, CV?
That was good.
It was good. You're not going to say it was bad, though, right?
That is true. That is true. How do you handle stress and challenges without letting it impact your relationship?
Without letting it impact my relationship. So this is referring, I would assume, to a personal relationship, my intimate relationship with my girlfriend.
I mean, that would be the most immediate that I can think of now.
It says, it says your relationship.
Yeah, but it could be your relationship with anybody. So it could be, yes, I think the most intimate is the bigger one. But think about even relationships with your colleagues or the people that you have to work with or are in business with.
On a one-on-one basis, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to take it to, I think, my relationship with my girlfriend. Just because it's tough, right? Relationships are really hard, and I think a lot of people are in relationships, and a lot of people are doing different things, and stress comes up, worry comes up, concern always comes up. But I'll tell you what definitely works for me. And the first thing would be acknowledging the stress, but also talking through it with your partner to try to identify the root cause of the stress, right? A lot of us men, we tend to come home and be like, I'm effing stressed out today. And then we just go in our room, do what we got to do, and then come back and make dinner, whatever it is. Where we actually need to really do the opposite. And this is the vulnerability piece that, obviously I'm more comfortable now, but this was something that I really struggled with in past relationships. But I'm finding that my partner happens to be an individual that just wants to be in the know. So a lot of us men will also say, oh, we need to compartmentalize, which is true. You want to leave your work stuff at home. But if your work is coming now into the household, it's your duty as a man, it's your duty as a leader, as a partner, to now be able to try to include your spouse in what's going on. You're not really looking for solutions during this time. You're just sharing an emotion that you're actually feeling. I think that the hardest part for me right now is focusing on regulating my emotions when I'm stressed, right? And what I mean by that is when I'm feeling that stressor, my immediate reaction is to be like, I don't want to talk about this. Please leave me alone. But it's also, again, my responsibility to be able to regulate my emotion. Even if I need to step away for a second, even if I need to go cook dinner by myself, I need to be able to communicate that part clearly. But it's my job as a man to come back to center, whatever center that may be. If you need to go work out, no problem. But it's your responsibility, and I put it on you, and I challenge you to regulate your emotion to come back to center. Now, once you do that, that communication needs to stay open. And as your level of stress decreases throughout the evening or throughout the problem or throughout whatever it is, you want to talk through that with your partner. And again, these are all levels of communication. But when you hear like, oh, what do you need to be a good partner? It's like, yeah, I need to communicate. These are specific things that you need to do. Acknowledging the stress and focusing on regulating your emotions.
I have a follow-up.
Yep.
So I heard you, and I agree with you, and I think that's the best way to approach it when you're level-headed, right? And you have the opportunity to kind of really have forethought and be able to put those key elements into action. What happens when, and I guess this is also part of learning, right? But what happens if the stressors are not just simple stressors? Because there's simple stressors, and then, I'm sure in the in the leveling up world of stress, there's always stress that's always going to be more important or heavier on you than others. There's stressors that you go to work and they're dumb and they stress you out, and you go home and you're in a bad mood. But at the end of the day, they may not be as big. They're just, like I said, level one stressors. What happens when you have these stressors that are like continuous and they're much heavier, which it really makes you struggle to, one, comprehend them, but two, also to be level-headed in that moment to take the actions that you're talking about. Hopefully that question was clear. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know where you're going. I don't know if you're going to love my answer to it, but I can give you like level 10 stressors of my personal life, right?
Well, it doesn't have to be examples.
No, but I'll give you, because if you're talking about level 10 stressors, let's talk about the moment that like I decided to separate from my relationship. Is that a level 10 stressor?
My level 10 and your level 10 are different. So if it is to you, then I would say that's yours.
Right, okay. Or like losing my dog of 13 years, level 10 stressor for most people?
Again, I mean, that's probably one that we kind of relate on because we both had puppies that passed. And to me, that was beyond the 10. That was actually a stressor that I probably struggled more than anything.
100%. But whether it's that or you lose a parent, lose somebody close to you, you lose a long-term relationship, financially, you lose your job. Like these are all, I think, things that are a little bit more higher level stress. I don't think you can jump into this cold turkey because, again, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I understand that my response to this stuff now is much different than it was because I wouldn't have been able to answer this question. This question really just comes down to the work that you put into yourself on a daily basis, right? Because there's no situation that you can put me in today that will stop my growth, my habits, my routines in a long-term basis. There's not one situation. You could think of the most tragic thing that could possibly happen to me, which in my opinion would be something bad happens to my child. Something bad happens to my child, right? I'm getting like choked up even thinking about it. No, but like you hear me, right? Like somebody, no, but it's the truth, right? Like that would be the worst possible thing. And of course, I'm going to be like, I wouldn't even be able to function for a period of time, but I will always be able to snap back into my life because I've done it in health. I've done it in relationships. I've done it by losing the people that are the most close to me in my life to death. There's no situation that when you become mentally resilient, there's no situation that will break you long term. In the moment, it might break you. And you said a word that was like, oh, well, in that moment. My response to you is like, you don't have to do it in that moment. You might have to be one that like just walks away. But it's also a conscious decision. You got to be like, yo, I'm stressed out right now. Give me a minute. Like everybody's strong enough to do that. And if you're not strong enough to do that, you got a whole lot of work to do. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does. But again, so I think what I'm asking for is that working to that point, because you're jumping from steps 1, 2 through maybe like 50 or 60, and now that you're very comfortable in that space, you're able to not only rationalize what you just said, but also in those moments be able to know, just to know that you can actually bounce back and what you have to do. But
yeah, see, I disagree with you. I think a lot of it.
So you were born innately with that?
What?
You were born innately with that?
No, but
That's
like I said,
I'm looking for 1 through 10.
I got you, but I made a lot of mistakes in my life. So also these are repetitions.
So you learn through the mistakes is what you're saying.
Well, you have to fail on those, right? So you have to be like, oh wow, I didn't do it this time. I didn't do it this time. But everybody, I believe, and again, we just have different thought process. You might be like level 1, 2, 3 to 10. Whereas to me, I know it's a quick switch, right? Like anybody, no matter where they're at in their life today, can make the level 1 change to level 10 by just saying, you know what, I'm going to start acknowledging it, right? When your gas tank is low, for whatever reason, you find a way to go get to the gas station to fill up your tank. You need to be able to do that with yourself. And everybody listening to this podcast understands what they need to do better in life. If you don't, then there's really something wrong with you, right? Like there's no special book, there's no special podcast that's going to be able to give you, hey, this is level 1, this is level 2, this is level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The level is you're not good at it today and you want to be good at it, right? So the first step that you have to do is be like, wow, I'm not good. I've made mistakes. The way that I've been doing this clearly doesn't work. I've lost relationships. I lost jobs. I've lost, personal interactions, whatever it is that you've lost. And now you want change. So the first thing has to be that you actually want to change, because anybody that's continuing in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s to do the same thing in life, you really don't want to change. Like, that's what it is. You're not confident in yourself. You don't believe in yourself, and you don't want to change. And I'm sorry if that's hitting anybody that's listening to this as they're driving in the car and you feel that I'm like attacking you a little bit, but if the shoe fits, wear it. Now, if you want the change, you have to be able to say, okay, I want this change, and now I acknowledge that I'm in a situation and I need to do something a little bit differently.
Okay. Next question.
Are you looking to elevate your brand with captivating visuals and immersive sound? Look no further than the home of the No Snooze podcast, Cai Visions Productions, your go-to destination for cutting-edge audio and video production. At Cai Visions, we don't just create content, we create experiences that leave a lasting impact. From podcasts, YouTube variety shows, sleek corporate videos, to attention-grabbing promotional campaigns, our team of experts is dedicated to turning your vision into reality. Choose Cai Visions for a production experience like no other. It's time to make your brand known. Contact us today at kaivisions@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at Cai Visions. Cai Visions Productions, where audio-visual excellence meets innovation. Now, back to the epi.
Dave, how do you work through peer pressure? What's one piece of advice if I'm struggling with that?
Peer pressure. So I don't necessarily know if I struggle with peer pressure. I struggle with more of like FOMO, but kind of the same thing, right? Like fear of missing out, peer pressure, or being pressured.
Well, no, that's not the same thing. At least I'm trying to think of it.
You're being pressured.
FOMO, you're missing out on. You feel like you're missing out on something. That's a feeling,
right?
Being what was it?
Peer
pressure is your peers pressuring you to do something or to maybe thought-wise.
I got
or whatever.
you. Right. Okay. I think you have to take, because this takes a stronger individual, right? And if I'm in a peer pressure situation, i.e., I'm out at a bar and I'm currently not drinking and my peers are taking shots and they're like, yo, Dave, drink. That's peer pressure, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. Yo, it's my birthday, man. Just one shot.
Right.
For my birthday, and then you can go home.
And then you can go home. Okay,
Can you do that for me or no?
No. No. But the reason I can't do that is because my morals and my values are at a certain level. And again, not that it's better than anybody else's level, but that's where I'm at in my life, and that's where somebody else is at their life, right? But I think that there's stages to it for me if I want to get better with peer pressure. So for that example, I can tell you for the first year of me committing to not drinking, I actually didn't put myself into the position to be out and about because I didn't want to deal with the peer pressure, to be honest. And that worked for me because I was not confident in myself. And I was like, damn, if I'm out and Claudio asked me to take a shot, like I'm probably going to get a little loose and take this shot. So stage one for me was making the conscious decision to be like, I'm not going to put myself into that position. Now, when I did that, that's when I ended up having the FOMO because I'm like, damn, now I'm missing out type thing. Then I got a little comfortable with it because just like everything in life, it's reps. You see the parties on Instagram, you see the parties on your social media, and you're like, damn, like I wish I could have been there. But every time I saw a post and I felt that little FOMO, I got more comfortable with it. To then it got to a point to where like now I'll go out and I'm like, yo, guys, I really just don't want to drink and I'm cool with my seltzer with a little lime. If I want to get crazy, I'll throw a lemon in there too, mix it around. Like I take pride now in that stuff, right? But I think you have to set the standard, look at your morals, look at your values, and see what you're going to uphold. I'll tell you this. I do get peer pressured currently, now that I'm thinking about it, with all my brothers who are involved in the fitness space. A lot of times on the weekends, we send group chats to each other. Yo, I'm going to go to, Pat's class on the weekend, Weekend Warriors, which is a phenomenal class. Shout out to Pat Damiano over at Ulta Fit. They want to go to this gym. They want to go check out this workout. They want to do this. And for me, that's where I'm like, damn, like this is all positive stuff. Let's go check out the new studio that's got the cold plunge, the sauna. Like these are things that I want to do in my life now. So I do still feel that level of peer pressure. But also, I've gotten to a place that I have non-negotiables in my life. And I'm very comfortable when I have my daughter to be like, listen, I can't. Even though I can, right? Like I can go get a babysitter. I can have somebody try to watch her. But there's a time and a place for me where family comes first, and I need to be able to prioritize the things that actually matter. Anybody on my team that would listen to this would tell you that I don't play around with family. If they give me an excuse and they say, hey, look, I'm going to be late, I got a family appointment, or if they're going to be out sick and their family this, I always say family first, do what you got to do. So that's been a way for me to kind of get through the peer pressure of that stuff, because my family is the most important thing to me, hands down, regardless of any interest that I want to get into. So I think it comes down to a strong sense of discipline, morals, and current values for what you see that's important versus what's not. And at first you might get a response that you don't like, oh, Dave's corny because he doesn't drink. But then after that, more and more people are going to be like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to drink, or I'm not going to do this. And it's based off of your influence.
Cool.
Cool.
Cool. Okay. What's one piece of advice you let me rewind. What's one piece of advice you'd give to people looking to improve personal relationships at work?
Personal relationships at work, or person?
Yeah, personal relationships at work. What's one piece of advice you'd give to people looking to improve personal relationships and at work?
Okay. I got you. Personal relationships and at work. So personal and professional. Yeah, just whoever wrote that question. Personal and professional is probably the way to go there. I hear you. This is actually something that I think I struggled with, especially with the work and personal in my past for sure. So I'm speaking on experience here, right? And I think I've been open in the past about like not having the best relationships, and I kind of talked about it a little bit today. But it was because of this one thing. I was constantly judging people. I was constantly thinking, especially in the workplace, you don't work that hard. Or I'm looking at people in my, inner circle like, your problem really isn't a problem, or this isn't really an issue. And I was constantly judging people, which is not the way to go. Because the truth is, we all come from different walks of life. We have different values. We have different levels of confidence. We have different backgrounds. We have different families. We have different struggles. And certain things, I think, aren't just as important to, say, CV as it might be to me. So, like, for me to sit there, and I used to do this constantly after meeting after meeting after meeting, and just be like, wow, this person didn't meet the standard. But, like, you're looking at your own standard versus looking at what that person's standard actually is. Now, I try to approach things with empathy and compassion, because the reality is, and just like CV and I were getting a little heated before, I don't know what CV is going through. CV doesn't know what I'm going through. I don't know what you're going through on the other side. So something that might seem so minute to me really might be putting you down in bed to where you can't even wake up. And that's got to be okay. And there's a golden saying about when you judge people, right? Because when you point the finger, there's always 3 pointing right back at you. And if you're on YouTube, you see this, right? I'm pointing the finger at you, and 1, 2, 3 are coming back to myself. And the lesson there is very clear, and it's very simple. You need to be... Oh, Claudia fucked me up. My boy is doing gang signs in the back. My boy... No, you can't cut it out now, because now I need to gather my thought. That's all right. But the lesson here is very clear, right? When you point that finger, there's 3 coming back at you, because you need to look in the mirror. Stop worrying about what everyone else is doing and start looking at yourself. And this was something that I really had to, overcome. And even still, I still think in my head, and I'm not going to lie to you, I think the majority of people are very soft out here. I do. But I also understand that until they make that commitment, they're going to be right where they're going to be. And now when you make that commitment and you say, you know what, I just want more for my life. Now, personally, I don't think you're soft at all. So like if you're fat and you're overweight and you say, hey, Dave, I want to do better. And now you just even start like moving in a little, like an inch in the right direction. Now I don't think you're soft. But I think you're very soft when you're fat. And then you're like, oh, I want to do better. I want to do better. And we talk 6 months later and you're still eating donuts. I think you're soft. And you can apply that to any principle in your life.
All right.
I'm getting rough today, huh?
Shout out to all the overweight people. Let's be a little bit more politically correct here.
I'm getting rough, right?
More to love. Categorize
but hear
more
me.
to love.
All right, CV. Like, am I talking not like? I mean, what am I saying that's wrong here?
So
give it to me.
You spoke about empathy, and that was not very empathetic.
No, I let me be clear. I don't have empathy for people who say they want change and don't change. I don't have empathy for that.
Okay, so sometimes, people have different situations, and I'm not saying. I think you're generalizing to the person who, you're right, is picking up the donut and not making any strides to do anything more. So you're basically categorizing just that one, and I think this needs to be clear so that nobody else gets offended from the listeners. But you're talking specifically to the one person or the people that just don't, and that's the key, really don't want to make a change.
Exactly.
Right? Because there are a lot of, we'll just use the overweight analogy since that's the one, right? That for health reasons isn't as easy, for hormonal reasons aren't as easy, for a lot of, and yes, are they always just excuses and excuses, excuses? Yes, but I've met, and I'm not even going to talk about myself because, but I've met people that have that struggle, and they are trying. So that 1 inch that you asked for, they are trying,
and that's good. And now
but
I have
on the flip side,
empathy for you.
You also see them that they tried one little thing. You see a lot of other things that are not being addressed or changed now, but there is a little bit of progress.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, they could be hormonal things for this individual to not be able to make the jump as easier. And honestly, I didn't even know about this, and this is the part that's weird because I tend to agree with a lot of the things that you're saying until you hear from different walks of life, different aspects. My experience is very mine, you know what I mean?
Of course.
And not only is it mine, but from a male standpoint, males have a very different, I guess, way that our bodies function than women.
Yes.
So that's why I brought up the hormonal thing, because sometimes women's hormones are crazy. To be honest, I still don't really understand them, but you'll see somebody who maybe is not fit, really trying, and nothing changes. And could they go harder? Maybe. Could they go completely, like, drastically shut everything down and just possibly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, there is a hormonal issue there that doesn't allow them to look the way they want to look for whatever reason. And that's something that I was like, oh, I didn't know
deep,
that.
But we've also spoken about that on the podcast, right? You can actually have grilled chicken for lunch every day. And if you have a negative mindset, 80% of those good nutrients don't get applied because stress kills. Stress is actually that strong. So I have a client right now, right? In my one-on-one.
Wait, can you repeat that? Hold on. Repeat that again?
Yeah, so this is on a couple episodes that we've spoken about.
Well, not that part.
No,
you can eat chicken.
You can eat grilled chicken
every single day. And you're not applying, if you have a negative.
If you have a chemically negative mindset, right, with your alpha and beta waves in your brain, and you're actually, like, chemically wired in a negative way.
Yes.
80% of the good nutrients of the good nutrients in that grilled chicken will not show physically in your body because stress kills. So stress is actually so much stronger than any good nutrient that you could put into your body. So I understand that.
This is scientific?
Scientific. This is not David.
This is wild.
No, this is something that you and I have spoke about too in the past.
Yeah, but not to this extent. I mean,
don't make me go back and find that episode where I talked about the exact clip. But it's true and it's powerful. This is why the mindset is so strong. So I have a client right now, one-on-one personal training client of mine, that has a consistent weigh-in of 276 pounds. Drives me nuts. It drives me nuts because I'm like, yo, my boy, you need to be, we need to be doing more. You're too big not to lose weight, right? But he's one that was just so chemically wired in the negative space. So what he's doing is I have him on podcasts and books that he's consuming every day and taking the small actions. And I have a lot of empathy for this man because he's putting in the work to change the thing that's actually blocking the physical piece, right? So now once we start to attack that, and we're doing that because he was 312 pounds and now he's 276 pounds. So we are doing it. I have a lot of empathy for somebody like that. But he's still overweight. He's still obese. He's still considered morbidly obese, right? But he's actually taking the steps. I'm talking about the people who, like, really, it's the same thing over and over and over. You look in the mirror, you say you're going to do different. You're going to do different in your relationships. You need this step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But the reality is you know exactly what to do, and you just don't do it. I'm not talking about the people who actually make tremendous strides in other aspects, and then the weight's just not falling off. Like, I know better than anybody that there's serious health conditions out here. Whether it's, you losing 40 pounds in 4 months or it's gaining 40 pounds in 4 years. I have a lot of empathy for that. But when you say you want to do different things and you're out here, not doing the things, then I don't have the empathy.
Okay. Moving on. What's one thing you do to combat imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome is tough. I don't think it ever goes away. Because it's something that definitely hits for me. But something that I've been thinking about is it's a different mindset. It's reframing mistakes into mastery. Knowing that every time I make a mistake or every time I mess up or do the wrong thing, that's typically when I feel like an imposter Because if I go on stage and I start to fumble, I can't get my word, now I begin to feel like I'm not good enough to be on that stage. Whereas I've tried to reframe the mindset to just understand that that's a repetition towards where I want to go. Thomas Edison, the light bulb, he gives a perfect analogy. And he says, I don't know the exact quote, but he said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that do not work. And that's a lot of mistakes that have to be made along the way. But as long as I'm taking the actions and I'm putting in the work behind the scenes to actually get to where I want to go, the reality is it's just a conversation with yourself. So I can battle the negative thoughts all day long because I know that the thoughts are just chatter, right? And there was also a really good analogy with a tick, right? And the tick can equate to a negative thought. So if I'm, going around Dominican Republic and a little tick jumps on me and my girlfriend happens to see it and she just pulls it off, right? You have the same ability. That negative thought is that tick. You can actually take it off. Now, if that same tick gets on me, my girlfriend doesn't see it, but I'm like, yo, like something is on me. But it might be in a spot that like I can't really see it. I keep hitting it. Within 2 days, that tick is humongous. And that same tick that you could have flicked off can now actually infect you with the own blood that it sucked out of you and infect you and potentially kill you. And that's the same thing with negative thoughts. So if you actually don't slap the tick off you or take it out with a tweezer and you just kind of let it fester, those negative thoughts will actually kill you. Just like Lyme's disease can potentially kill you. So the negative thought in your life could be the little tick and you just take it off and get rid of it. Or it could be the tick that you allow to get really, really fat because it sucked your own blood like a vampire and then infected you. Did I ever give that analogy, CV?
No, I've never heard that analogy from you or from anybody. So it is an original.
Hey!
It's a Dave Regina original.
It's an OG.
Yes.
But I heard it from somewhere, I think, so I guess it's not really an OG. But does that, like, you get what I'm saying? So
yeah,
the negative thoughts,
it's a good analogy.
It definitely is. And it's something that's like very relatable because I remember having this massive tick on my back and it got so big that it definitely sucked my own blood. But for days, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I'm going up against,
That's real?
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
But I'm going against a door and doing this, scratching like old people do.
Like a bear. That's a bear.
Yeah, like a bear. Just scratching. And then I remember I was actually on an island, and this was back in college. And my boy goes, yo, you have a rock on your back. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? A rock on my back. Come to find out, this tick had already like sucked half of a gallon of blood right from me.
So that explains a lot today. Thank you.
Finding the perfect home is more than just a transaction. It's about finding a place where your family can grow, feel comfortable, and thrive. That's why you need someone who truly cares about your needs and is there to support you every step of the way. Meet Janeska, a dedicated real estate professional with 9 years of experience serving families across the Hudson Valley, covering the Bronx, Westchester, Rockland, and Orange County. As a wife of a first responder and a mother of 3, Janeska knows how important it is to find a home that feels right, not just for you, but for your family. Her background as a former educator gives her a unique ability to listen, understand, and guide you with the patience and care, whether you're looking to buy your first home, looking to upgrade, or ready to sell. With her extensive knowledge of the local market and her genuine commitment to helping families navigate the process with ease, Janeska is here to offer you the support, expertise, and reassurance you deserve. Mention Dave from the No Snooze podcast and call Janeska today at 845-694-9067 or email her at jpaulino@kw.com to start your journey home. There was one more question that came in actually this morning on Instagram. I don't know if you have it. You don't have it, right?
No.
And this was a good one. Do you have any more over there? No. No, I could read it. I have it. I could just pull up my gram real quick. All right.
By the way, while we're waiting, if you do have a tick on you, you have to be very careful not to just yank it out.
Because the head could stay in there.
Right. Well, the tentacles, not the head. The head, yes, the head will be attached, but that's above surface.
Yep.
But you want to be able, so the way you're supposed to take, I mean, I'm sure you had a dog, so when you take a tick out, you're supposed to squeeze at the very head so that it releases its tentacles from the skin, and then you can yank it out. Because if you just yank it out and the tentacles stay in, that also gets infected, and that also can cause whatever. I mean, people that have dogs probably know all this stuff because this is tick land.
Listen, I think you're working towards a new nickname. Claudio the Doctor Valenzuela.
The vet.
All right, this is actually a good one. Here we go. I'm finding myself in a tough spot. I'm struggling to balance my own personal values with the expectations of others. How do you handle this? Appreciate the time. Would love to hear your insight. I like that question because I don't have an immediate answer to it. So I got to take a second to think about it. Struggling to balance my own personal values with the expectations of others. Own personal values with the expectation of others. I would say this. You don't ever want to be afraid to lose people, but you should be afraid of losing yourself along the way to please everybody else. I think you need to stand up for yourself, stay true to who you are as a person, and this happens to be a female. I think you can compromise a little bit, but people who truly care about you in your life are not going to force you to do something so far against your moral code. Does that make sense, CV?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I mean, when you even read it, and I haven't even seen that question.
Yeah.
When you read it, it resonated a little bit. So your answer is kind of, it's definitely sinking with me.
Because a lot of us...
It always is said, being yourself is always the answer. Be true to yourself, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I agree. That's a good...
Yeah. But balancing your personal values with the expectations of others. People are always going to have expectations of you, and that's unfortunate because now I do believe that we should not have expectations of others. When you don't expect something from somebody, you really don't have anything to lose, right? Because anything they give you, you're just kind of like, well, thank you if it was really good, or all right, it just was bad.
But tell me that's not tough, though.
It is tough, but also...
Speaking from a realistic place where we all have friends and work.
The best advice that my therapist ever gave to me, it was tough to hear, but it was the damn truth. And he said, your relationships will never improve and your life will never get better if you continue to keep score in your relationships. Right? Now, keeping score is many different things. It's like, oh, hey, honey, I did the dishes, so I have an expectation of you to fold my laundry. Or you're doing all these nice things because you have an expectation of receiving something back. And that is something that I did in my relationships all the time. I would try to outdo. Oh, I had a rough... I was rough at, I paid for the last 5 dinners, Katie, why aren't you stepping up and paying for this dinner? Instead of just being like, you know what? I'm looking at this dinner right now and I'm going to pay for my girlfriend because she's my girlfriend and she deserves me to pay for it, right? There's a big shift when you start keeping score. And a lot of my relationships in the past that have ended was because the scoreboard, I was just constantly looking at a scoreboard. I'm doing things to try to eventually get somebody else to do something. But that's just you in your own bullshit. You're looking at things and you're doing things because you have an expectation of receiving things. Remove the expectations from the relationships and your whole world will change. And that was some of the best advice that Mike, my therapist, has given me in my life, because when he said it to me, I was like, wow, you probably just solved all my issues. But at the time that he told me, I had already lost a lot of relationships. And there's probably nobody, somebody listening to this there's at least one relationship in your life, and it doesn't have to be intimate. It could be at work, right? Like, it doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. You have expectations of somebody, and you're doing things because you want somebody else to do something for you. You got to level the scoreboard and just take all those expectations away. Very hard to do, though. Talk to me.
Oof, I don't know. I have a lot of conflictive
Go ahead, give them
thoughts.
to me. Let's do it.
And I'm not saying I don't agree, because I think it's 100% valuable, the answer that you gave. But I'm thinking from, I guess, different perspectives. I know there's a lot of people pleasing going around in the world, just people that just have that innately in them, whether it's because they're passive aggressive, or whatever. They just have this, this ability to just want to just appease, right? But then there's others, and I guess I don't want to use myself as an example here.
No, you should. It's
because I can see where this is going to go, and the crosshairs are already on my forehead. I see you.
Shots fired.
I see you. But there's people that genuinely go out there and put out, good effort. Good effort, to not use, work as a word, but good effort to their friends, to their peers, to their colleagues, to just in general. And not really ever looking for anything in return, until something happens or something goes down where eventually every person has that point, that boil over point where they get tired of, like, I always hear this from people, right? I'm always helping, and never asking for anything in return. And then when I need something, no one is there for me. And again, this is not me. I don't want the crosshairs to be on me. Mm-hmm. But and this kind of goes back to the other question, because if you're in that position, I guess you should just start deading, be true to yourself, and just dead it, right?
Stop doing, right?
But there's people that struggle with that really struggle with. It's innate to them to do good. It's innate to them to just help, to do more, to be there for their friends, to be there for their colleagues, to be there for whomever. It's innate in them. That's maybe how they were raised. That's maybe how they are. Mm-hmm. So for you to just say, hey, you just gotta, like, kind of cut it right there and just be black and white, where some people are just never been that way. You're asking people to basically throw away a habit that they've built probably their entire life.
Yeah, I mean, I think I struggle with it a little bit. And again, I know I'm being a little bit robotic here, but I would ask that person, like, do you really have value for yourself? Do you believe in your heart that you're not worth something a little bit better? Like, if you want to be a pushover in your life, and you're talking about the people who are just going to do for people who are going to not give them anything in return ever, that's on
but
you.
Do you see how you innately start kind of keeping track then, and like not score, but track a little bit of, like, because
no. There's standards in relationships. It's different than keeping score, right? Keeping score, for example, would be, okay, I cook for my girlfriend 3 nights in a row, right? But she has a hard day at work, and this is now night number 4.
But you're talking about something that's very, I mean, listen, not that your example is not good. I see your example,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel it's an easy example to explain and to get to a good resolution very, very easily, I think, in the conversation, right? And not because the example is not a good one. But think of somebody you may know that's a giver, just a natural giver, and they're always giving, and not really ever expecting. They're just a good person, right? We all know people, friends that we have that are always doing more than is ever expected and never really asking for anything in return. We all have that. And, and you never know. It gets to that point where that person, usually those people, I feel like they have like super high tolerances for whatever. I've noticed that. I mean, I know I don't, but I know a lot of people do that, and they're very patient, and they can kind of like be okay when people don't reciprocate or don't do anything in return. But like everybody, we all have a limit, and when that limit gets met, then it's kind of like, oh, what do you tell that person then? It's not that they don't have respect for themselves or value about themselves. It's just that's how they've chosen to live a life that they are happy, always helping and providing and giving, and not really caring for anything in return. It's just different people. And I'm not telling you that's what I'm like that. I'm just telling you because I know people like that.
No, you're definitely not like that.
No, I know. But you get what I'm saying? So like, what do you tell someone like that you can't just be like, oh, well, do you really have value for yourself? They do. And if not, it's a very deep.
Your examples are like a little, because they're not specific, so they're super general to people that aren't the majority. But if somebody like this,
how do you know that though?
What?
How do you know it's not the majority?
Because I know the majority of the listeners, they wake up and they attack.
You know, the majority of the people that I'm speaking about usually don't speak up. So you can't even know who it is and who it isn't.
But that's fine. But also, like, if there's, because I have certain people like the AA community, right? That is all about giving. There's no receiving, but they receive by giving. So if those are the people, then it's not a bad thing if they're choosing consciously to continue to give in relationships. Now, if that's a conscious choice that you're making, continue to do that. I don't see any problem with it. But I do think there's a line for people that if you do feel that you're a person that's like, oh my God, I'm constantly giving, and getting nothing in return, boom, your expectations are not being met. So you should probably stop doing the thing that you're not getting in return. Nobody in my life that I really know is just out here like, oh my God, I just want to give 100% of my money to this person, or I want to give 100% of my efforts to this one, and I'm not going to receive a level of respect back. Of course you should have expectations in that regard to be respected in a relationship. Like if you're being disrespected in a relationship and you're continuing to give, like that's stupid. You got to leave the relationship. So I'm not really clear on the circumstance that you're really providing.
Okay. I mean, it's just I just
no,
want,
you
I just
get what I'm
wanted
saying. Like I wish you can give me. I wish you can give me an example of somebody.
I can't because I mean somebody that you know that I know together.
No, like just even an analogy of like, hey, this person is doing XYZ and this person is doing ABC. Like, give me something that I can kind of keep it tangible.
I don't know. I don't really know. I would only be able to give you maybe some of my personal ones, but I'm not trying to do that. So it's really, I don't know. It's broad because it is broad. I just know. I know that there's a lot of different personalities in the world. It's not just either robots or non-robots. There's a whole gamut in between that.
Of course.
There's people that are just different. So I just posed a different kind of question to see if the answer still applies or it doesn't apply, because at the end of the day, I know there's people out there that are very like selfless.
Yeah.
And then just give.
But
every person has a limit.
Of course.
And that limit, usually what ends up happening is those people, because they tend to be a little bit more passive aggressive, they're not going to voice their like discomfort or their upsetness about whatever. They usually just either continue dealing with it or they leave. And they usually leave kind of quietly because it's already an uncomfortable moment. You're very comfortable in those uncomfortable conversations. So it's very clear to me and probably to the listeners that you attack everything, with your best foot forward, and you understand it and you break it down and you kind of get through those things. Not everyone tends to be like that. Some people are just way more passive and way more non-confrontational, where
absolutely
that almost do anything in the opposite just to avoid those kind of weird moments,
Yeah,
but also this is one of those. But so that's why I pose a different example.
Yeah, I got you. But like I said, I think if somebody like really enjoys doing the thing of being givers, and you enjoy that, then by all means do that, because you're getting a level of fulfillment back. But I'm all about different perspectives. And listen, man, I'm a leader of people, and I understand, and I lead many different personalities. You know that, right? I have personal employees that, work for us that are in their 20s to their 70s. So I get the different age levels. I get the different thought process. But I'm just trying to give perspective on, I guess, the questions that were asked. And I think when you're doing things in relationships to keep score, it's a little bit different than the scenario that you kind of are giving us. But I think we rambled enough today. You got anything else?
No, sir. Rambles are done.
Rambles are done. Guys, thank you for tuning into this episode. We hope you found some value. This show continues to grow. Top 10% Spotify podcast only because of you. You like that, right, CV? Top 10%, baby. My life didn't change, did yours? I know. Still waiting for that day. But no, truly, guys, we appreciate you guys just sharing this stuff, even if it's a clip on Instagram or if it's you taking the Spotify, sending it to a friend saying, hey, listen to this podcast. That truly means the world to us. These are little things that don't cost money to support somebody's business. So not just for CV and I, but any other small business that's going on, share their stuff. It's a very simple way to bring somebody new to the forefront of a new potential business. And it's a great way to support. As always, you can shop the latest merch at nosnoozeshop.com. snooze.com. And until next time, stop snoozing.
Get up and get after it.
Audio the pantry.
I
Thank you guys for tuning in. That's another epi in the books. You can follow us on Instagram at No Snooze Podcast and leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, No Snooze. Shop the latest merch at nosnoozeshop.com. Come on.